By the way, am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start now. So today's topic is about the Docker. So basically Docker, and you might have heard about the Kubernetes. So these two tools, these are the tools, goes together hand by hand, which we are going to discover in today's meeting and after a week meeting. So the first thing is Docker. So as I suggested, I'm going to talk about the very high level overview of this tool. And I named this topic as solving developers common problem. Like I believe like most of us join here is that from the developer background. So they complain about like, okay, my apps is running on my system, but not running in the production. So here we are going to solve this problem by running my application in a Docker container. So here is a new word, container. But container technology, by the way, it's not a new technology. It's from the long ago, almost a decade. But using a containerization app was not so easy before Docker. Now this Docker has come into the market, made us easy to run our application in a container. That's why it's become so much popular. Now we will go deep dive into the container, like what is container, how is it different from our traditional approach of standalone or VM somehow. So during the this uh, presentation, and by the end of this presentation, you will find out like using this Docker technology, I will be able to run my application in a container. So that's why I'm containerizing my application. So that is the aim of this meetup. So here is the agenda. So I'll talk about the Docker first, since this is the Docker meetup. So I'll talk about the Docker. Then we will go into why we need Docker, because we need to understand since we have all the technology available in the market, why we are moving towards the Docker. And since I said like Docker is using the container, so we have to study about like, okay, what is the difference between VM and the virtual machine and the container. Then we will go and deep dive into the Docker engine, its architecture, Docker file, which is important to create any image. Again, it's a new word. Image is nothing but to run any application as a container, we need an image. So we will go into that one, and how the Docker is helping us in our DevOps environment. So how it will make our life easy. Okay. So here, the first thing is Docker. So Docker, the very first definition, or you can say like its a marketing term will be build, ship, run any software anywhere. So that is the marketing term they are using. Why they are using, and they have proven this one. Just not for the namesake they are using, but they have proven this one. So first of all, Docker is a software tool. It's not a container. It's a software tool which will make our application to run as a container. How they are doing? They how they are doing means like they are using a Docker file through which you can create, deploy, or run your application to run as a container. And when we package, like how it does, like it will package your applications, your jar, basically the jar, if you're using the Java application, and all the libraries and all it dependency together, and it will build an image. Now this image I'm going to ship and I'm going to run.
These three slides.
Can I ask you to mute everyone, please? Yeah, thank you. And by this one, since I'm doing my packaging of my application, so it will become an image because I'm putting my application, jar application or exe application, and all it dependency. When I say dependency, application will run with it dependency. For example, if I'm running a Java application, I need a JDK environment. So all these dependency libraries will be packed together so that it's isolated. It has no dependency other than OS environment, like operating system. It doesn't require anything more. It doesn't require any more library to be installed in my system. So that's why it will package together. It will isolate from the outer world, and it will form an image. That's why there, like my Docker file will come to create an image. It will create one image, and this image, wherever I want, I can run anywhere. I just need a Docker software need to be installed in that machine so that it can spin up my container. That's it. That is the only requirement. And if we are able to achieve this one, then I can make sure whatever I am running in my development environment, the same thing will run into my production environment. There will be no changes because I have no communication with the outer world. Whatever I am using in my development environment OS, when I say OS, say for example, I'm using Linux in my machine, I need only the Linux kernel. It doesn't matter if I'm using my, say for example, Red Hat or Ubuntu, it doesn't make because all this family comes with the Linux kernel. Underlying will be your Linux kernel. So if I'm running my application in Red Hat, it will also run in my Ubuntu because underline will be Linux kernel. So it doesn't make any difference. So that's the reason it claims it will build, ship, run anywhere, any software anywhere. So that's why it's more popular. So that is all about Docker and how it is making. We will go into that one. Before that, why we need this tool. Okay, the problem before the Docker was, as I told you, like application, mainly the application developer, they were complaining like, okay, I have built my software, but it's running in my laptop, but it's not running in my production. A small example, if for example, like in my laptop, if I'm running my Java application and it need one JDK environment, and in my local laptop, it's having some like one version which is supporting to my application, but in my production the JDK version or Java, it's a different one. So in that case, it may differ. It may differ, and my application might not run because it's asking for one of the method which is not present. That is very logical. So that's the reason. And why I'm saying, because a developer, you have to think about the mindset of the developer and the operation guys. When I say developer, means it can include like architect, development developer who build the system, and operation means who maintain the server and who do the update, patching, DBA side. So from the developer side, their mindset is totally different. They are like more of like innovative. They will go into the market, they will find out useful, they start using. But the same thing will not happen for the operation. They have to find out the stability. They cannot go and do the update every time. No, because it requires so much effort. They have to find out like all the application is compatible. So that's the reason they need a stability. They want a certain period or certain kind of interval to be done the patch update. They cannot go like over the night. They will do. So that's the reason they are two different guys, like Dev and Ops. These are like two different person with different mindset. So that's why sometimes what, like most of the times developer complains like it is working here but it's not working in my production. And this is like we cannot it's nothing like let it go kind of solution, like okay, it happens, so okay, next time we will take care of this one. The reason behind this one, because it create a panic when the system go offline. Because for example, it's on demand tool and on demand application. I cannot afford like system can go offline because it may impact my business. And when it happens, like when the system goes offline, we need to gather, like we need to contact many person who has knowledge about this system. Then we have to involve DBA guys, infrastructure guys, admin guys, okay, to see what went wrong. Something went wrong, like there is something related to software hardware kind of thing. So there will be so many negotiation will be going around the table. So after that, somehow the person will come into the picture and they will try to fix this problem, maybe skeleted one. And it doesn't mean like once it happened, it won't happen again. So there may be like repeated instance of the same mistake. Like I'm releasing, say for example, I'm releasing every week, and every week the same problem is coming. Maybe it's for like 30 minutes or 1 hour, but it's happening. So it's like a repeated instance. The reason is like whoever is doing the fix, it may happen like during that next time it is due to the different reason, or the person who is fixing this one is not making a proper document, so that SOP kind of thing, so that next time it can be followed and rectified. So the next time it may happen. And it will also like a slow recovery may happen, like a system may go down from several minutes to hours. So it's another impact for the business. And overall, including everything, what will happen, like we are losing faith in IT. the business person will say, okay, what is the use of the IT? Like every time the system is offline and I'm getting my business impacted. So this is a serious issue. Like it will start with a small thing, but over the period of time, it will go on and it may create the problem. So here, this is the typical developer environment. So here you can find out, I have an infrastructure. On the top, I have OS installed. I have a library dependency, their dependency. And this is my Node.js .NET Core application environment. This is Angular and this is my Ansible. So this is the typical development machine. So you can find out in the developer like laptop nowadays, like it's very common one. And the problem is like, okay, I am using, say, for example, I'm using Node.js and this is having a, I need a particular version of my infrastructure. I need a particular version of infrastructure. I need a particular version of operating system also. And besides that, I also need a library which is compatible to my Node.js. I'm talking about the Node.js and the dependency also. Same thing will be applicable for all other component like .NET Core, Ansible, and the Angular. So same thing will happen. Like they need their own dependency. And over the period of time, it may happen like, okay, Node.js need one version of library, which is not supported by my AngularJS. It may happen. So during that period of time, we're doing a lot of research. So, okay, which version of library is compatible with both, that one we are going to use. So there are so many things like dependency or library. Compatibility is happening in the developer machine. And it takes a lot of time to set up this environment. And this kind of thing is nothing but it's called like compatibility matrix hell. And the problem is like it's, as I said, like it will take long time to set up the machine, and different dev environment, test environment, production environment, because we have to follow up this one. And suppose any new developer is joining this our project, then we have to give one long kind of instruction to follow to install this one, like all the dependency, all the OS, the particular OS you have to install. And not only this, over the period of time when my like architecture is changing, once again I have to revisit every version. I have to go and look into the particular version. Okay, this is compatible with this component or not. I need to visit, and this is taking longer time. So how it can be solved, how this dependency matrix problem can be solved? So according like what we can think about, like, okay, infrastructure is there, operating system is there, that is the basic need of like every machine. And all this component in between that, can we have a kind of middleman which can solve my problem, so that I cannot have any dependency problem on my library or on my like framework or operating system infrastructure. So that can be taken care of that by some software or tool. So here's it comes like as a Docker. So Docker says, okay, you don't have to worry about like all this dependency problem. I will take care. How? It's just about I will run each and every component in the separate container. So container, here is the word came as a container. So what the container will do, it will just isolate itself from the outer side world. So here you can see I'm having my Node.js installed, Node.js running with the library, with their own library and own dependency. Likewise, my .NET Core, Angular, and the Ansible running with their own library and own dependency. So there is no communication, there is no dependency between others' library. They are running on their own. And the best part is about this one. If I have to include a new component, I don't have to do anything else. I just need to create another container. I have to put it over there with their own library. So that is the one, and it won't take much more time to set up. I just need only one thing, like Docker need to be installed. That is the only the prerequisite. Docker software need to be installed. What it will do, it will just create my application. It will try to run my application in a containers. So it will make my containerized application. So that is the thing it is going to do. So now here you have heard about this one container. So container, it's a just overview, as I told you in the beginning of this presentation, container is nothing like it's a new technology. It's not coming with the Docker, by the way. So container has come, the first container has come around like 2008 with Linux. They have come with LCX. But due to the very low level of programming, it's very hard to run my application in the container. So it was not so easy, and nobody wants to go to run as a container. But there is a lot of benefit to run in a container. So what it does, like it will isolate itself, and it has its own process, network, mount, just like your virtual machine. You can think about it has having its own process, network, and mount, and all the time it will be talking to your it is having a common operating system, meaning like container doesn't have their own operating system to run. It will always rely on my host machine where I'm running my container. For example, if I have this container as a like Linux, this is Windows, this cannot run because OS kernel will be different for my Linux and my Windows. So both are different. But if I have like a same family like Linux, Ubuntu, or CentOS, then it can run because all are having the same OS kernel, so they can run. So that is the benefit. So if I have to run a container, I have to make sure I have to first go and to look into my OS kernel. That is only prerequisite. If the OS kernel is matching, then I can spin up same container, like same family of container in the same host machine. So here the Docker will come and it will spin up my container. So Docker container is the only one like which is responsible for running my application in a container. So yes, now we have come across like container, and the question will come like why we want to run our application as a container since we have the virtual machine. Before that, like virtual machine, there was one technology like very long back, like we used to run our application in a single server, like one application, one server. The problem was like the usability of the server was not so much, meaning like suppose I have to host any application. In any case, I cannot say how many RAM I need. I will always go for the higher end because I cannot say my business, okay, you have only 10 users, so you need only 4 GB of RAM, 4 gig of RAM, or certain limit of your hard disk. Because tomorrow my business can grow up and I cannot go back to my business. Okay, your application cannot run because of this limitation. This is not going to happen because so that's the reason we always go for the higher end, like maximum usage based on the my budget, and based on that I will purchase my server. So many of the time during that period of time we used to end up with like a kind of heavy machine, and you will be surprised we were using only something around like 20 to 30% maximum, and rest of all like 70% was not using, so it's totally waste in IT. So after that like one new technology came that is called VMware. It's like Hyper-V, where you are creating a virtual machine. So this is the one. I have a server, I have a CPU, RAM, and memory. What I will do, I will be having one Hyper-V. It's a kind of software which will be installed, and what it will do, it will spin up a new VM. I can spin up a new VM on the top of this Hyper-V, and it will be having my separate OS. So suppose I am having my Linux, I can have my Linux or Windows, anything I need, and all my RAM, CPU will be shared. So suppose this is my RAM or CPUs, it will become my virtual CPU over here. Suppose here I've given like 10 gig, I can allocate out of this like 2.5 to each of them. So, and in this case, I will be having like 4 VM, all having their own operating system, and my application is installed in each of my VM. So this is the typical scenario of my VM. Now everything is running fine, but there is one flaw. How? Like, okay, we'll compare with the container. So here you can see I have a server and I don't have anything except one of my, as I told you, like Docker tool. Docker tool, what it will do, it will spin up my container. So here it will just spin up my each of my container, and in each container I'm running my application. Okay, what is the benefit here? I don't have any OS, because what will happen, suppose I'm sharing 2.5 gigs, as I said, like out of 10 gig I'm sharing 2.5 gig. most of the, like about 50% will be gone by my OS. This OS will go off. OS, because it needs some memory to run application. That's why after that it can host the application. My application will run on the top my or on the top of my operating system. But in the container approach, there is no OS. So my memory has been saved. So that is the biggest advantage. So as you can see, sorry, as you can see, these are the waste. Whatever you are seeing here, these are the waste. And here I can spin up more container based on my whatever the like memory has been given. Within the same memory, I can spin up more container. What I can save, my utilization will be more. My disk space, I can utilize my disk space. Boot time will be faster because here I don't have to rely on my OS operating system, because the operating system takes some time to boot. Here I don't have anything, so it will boot directly. And there will be no licensing cost. It doesn't want it doesn't have only the waste, but also the licensing cost, like operational cost. For example, I need to update my operating system over the period of time. I have to do the patching, antivirus, everything. I have to maintain this operating system. But here I don't have to do anything. So that is the biggest advantage while running the virtual machine application and the container application. So that is the biggest advantage. And again, I'm saying, like, okay, this is not the new thing. Container is not the new thing, but here the Docker plays the major role. Docker is saying, you forget about the complexity, how to run. I will make it for you. You just give me the image. I will run your application as a container. So that is the layer they have made. That is the complexity they have removed, and running my application as a container and winning the market. So that's why Docker is so much demand. Okay, now the question will come, like, okay, now the container has come. Shall I go for the container all the time? No, because we have to look into my scope parameter. Based on the parameter, I have to decide whether I have to go for VM or container. So first one is scope. So here it's a suitable, like VM is suitable for multiple applications. Suppose you want to run the multiple application, then go for the VM. Straightforward. Container, suppose I have to run the same application, multiple instance, same copy, then it's better go for the container. Suppose I have a application like web application, I want to run multiple time. So today what we are doing, we are hosting in a different server, and we on the top we are putting a load balancer kind of thing. Then my request is going in any of the host machine, any of the server. Here, suppose I want to run a multiple copy, I will spin up the container in the same host machine. I don't need any additional. I will use the same host machine. I'll put my container over there, and it will act like a multiple instance is running. And here, like in the Docker, we have something like uh, okay, load balancer is there, that we will look into in the forward one. There is a load balancer, the same technology we can use, and it will make sure like only one container is getting utilized over there. Like it's not serving like multiple container is requesting my request. Okay, second one is portability. Okay, as I told you, like platform independent. If you want your application as a platform independent, then go for the VM. For example, here you can see I have a, so if, for example, I have a server as a like Windows, so I can host my, if my application is Linux, then I can install my Linux and I can host my application. But in this example, if my server is Windows, I cannot have my any container application running as a Linux. It will not compatible with that one. So that is the like another case. So based on that one, you have to take a decision, wise decision. In container, if it is a dependent, like all the container is having the same family, then you can go for the container. So that is the another criteria, another parameter, portability. Resource, as I told you, like if you don't care about the resource, like you have a lot of resource, then go for the VM, nothing to worry. Why you want to go for the Docker? And if you are going with the minimum resource utilization, then go for the container. So it's like you really care about like about your infrastructure, your budget, then better you go for the container. And security, last one is security. Like, okay, since I'm using the VM, all are having their own operating system. So here I don't need any pseudo privilege. because all are they are having their own independent OS operating system. But for the container, it need, suppose you want to go for the any library which is like operating system related library. In that case, you need a sudo access, like root access. You cannot do like with your user account. So that is the security, but it's not a harm. That is just a warning. So yeah, based on this four parameter, you have to take a decision whether you want to go for the VM or container. So that is the criteria we have to maintain. Okay, so Docker in nutshell. So Docker, you can see like I have a Docker file here, and I have a project code. Project code means like my application. And out of this Docker file is nothing but it's like a set of instruction. Out of this, it will create my image, and this image, when I run my image, that is called container. Meaning, running instance of my image is known as container. This image I can put in a Docker Hub because I need a like a repository kind of thing. Just like okay, I need a repository, and through this repository I can pull and I can spin up any container. And same thing like in production, I can spin up. So there will be no difference where I'm using, whether it's been used in a staging server or production server. It doesn't make any difference with respect to my packaging, because my package is image. Whatever image I have created, that is my package, and it will run same as whatever it's running in my staging server. The same thing it will run in my production server. Okay, now compared to our traditional approach, what we are doing today, we are building, we are doing our coding, we are doing the check in our Git. Then we are pushing in our some of the repository known as like Nexus, for example, for Java, we are pushing, and there we store our all our artifacts. Then as a DevOps like operation guy, they will download the artifacts. Then they will, for the web application, it will do the SSH connection. For example, they have written an Ansible playbook. They will do the SSH connection. They will stop the server. Then they will deploy my artifact. Then they will start my web server. After that, we can say like my application has been deployed. So that is the traditional approach. Here, instead of that one, I have additional Docker file which is used to create a Docker image. So that is the additional thing I'm using. Everything like project code remains same. And here, Docker Hub, instead of my Nexus, I'm using my Docker Hub to store my artifacts. Apart from that, nothing is there. And yeah, one most important, like yeah, I need a Docker tool to if I want to run. So that is the only thing. Apart from that, I don't need any additional thing. So I just want to compare with my traditional and with the Docker. So hand to hand, here is additional thing is Docker file, like which developer is writing, and I needed repository compared to my Nexus. I need a repository which is a Docker Hub where I'm storing my image. So that is the only difference. Okay, now before I go in further, I will go walk through the what is Nexus. So okay, this is my Docker Hub. So here what I'm doing, this is my URL like user code Ranjit Roy Docker, and this is my repository. Ranjit is my repository. And here what I'm doing, I'm storing my images. So here you can see these are my images. How this image is coming? Here is my application. So in this application, I just created one sample application, Java like war application. And here I have created two versions, version 1 and version 2. It's hardly any difference. Just I changed the title, version 1 and version 2. Just that is the only difference I did. So that I'm having version 1 and version 2. And this is my Nexus repository. Sorry, this is my Docker Hub. So Docker Hub, as I said, this is used to store my images. So these are the images. Whatever you are seeing, these are the images. Version 1, version 2, and version 118. These are my images. So what I'm going to do first. Okay. So here I'm using my Azure. You can use any of them. Like it doesn't, I need only a kind of virtual machine VM. So here I'm using Azure. So this is my IP address, I try to connect this one using the PuTTY. I will do the connection here. And this is the key. I'm just going to connect. Okay, and I'm logging into my root user. Sudo su hyphen. Okay, perfect. I'll make the behavior. Okay. Okay, perfect. I think that is okay. Okay. Can you see this one, or I need to make it the font size more? Is it okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is my, this is my VM. So VM is nothing but how I have created using my marketplace. So this is my marketplace. I have chosen one subscription and I have gone for this VM, and based on my reason I have selected, and it has given me one VM. And this VM, if I go into this VM, it is like 2 CPU and 8 gig RAM. And like operating system is CentOS. So this is my normal VM. So here I'm going to, so first thing I will look for the Docker. So which Docker? So Docker is there just to verify, and whether it's running. Status Docker. So it's running fine. Okay, fine. Okay, so and the next thing is, okay, as I told you, I'm going to have my, so this is my Jenkins, just like CI/CD. So here what I did, I created a pipeline, version 1. So I have 2 version actually. So here what I did, if you see configure, I'm just doing the, I'm taking for my repo and I'm looking in for my particular branch, and I'm doing MVN clean package. So it will create the war file. So that is the only thing. And after that, I have a Docker image, so Docker deploy image. So what it will do, so here what I have done, this is my war file created after the running the job, this will create over there. So if I go into this path, target, so you can see like, okay, there is war file. And here what I'm doing, I'm creating a Docker file. Since I told you like a Docker file, I need to create the image. So I'm creating a Docker file on the fly. So this is the command, whatever the term you have within the EUT matching, everything will be executed. So here first thing what I'm doing, I'm copying my var file into my current directory. So I'm taking this var file, it will put into my current directory. This is the dot sign. And after that, from Tomcat. So this is very important. I will go through this one in the later part, but here is the from Tomcat, meaning Tomcat is my base image. So to create any image, I need a base image, that is mandatory. So here Tomcat, because my application need to be run in a web server, I need a Tomcat. So for that reason, I need a Tomcat. I'm taking the base image of Tomcat, official image, in fact. And next command is add. So whatever the sample app, what is there, I'm copying into my Tomcat web app, meaning whatever war file will be present inside the web app, it will be running. After that, I'm running my command Catalina, which is under the Tomcat. Tomcat gives the Catalina shell script, and I'm firing run, and it will expose under this host. So in nutshell, what I'm doing, I'm taking a Tomcat, okay, and I'm deploying, I'm copying my war file into the web app of the Tomcat. I'm running at Catalina.script, which is for running my Tomcat server. So whatever you have inside this web app, it will run, and it will run in a port 8080. And this is my Docker file created. What this Docker file contains? This Docker file contains the sample web plus Tomcat. Two things. This is war file and this is my image. Now here what I'm doing, I'm doing the tag. I'm building a tag. So here Docker build is the command to create the image. So I'm building a tag with this tag. Now I'm tagging this one to my Docker Hub. So this is my Docker Hub. In the Docker Hub, this is the tag will be present. So version 1 build number. Now after this is present, I am just pushing whatever the image has been created. I'm just pushing into my Docker Hub. So here, if I'm going to run, so what will happen, like step by step, whatever you have written step by step, it will be done. So it's downloading everything. Okay, it will take some time. It's adding the sample app into my web app. Okay. And one more thing I would like to highlight, which Tomcat. So I don't have any Tomcat in my machine. I don't have, but my application need a Tomcat. So that is the dependency. So here what I did, I have packed together my war file with Tomcat in an image. So how the Tomcat has come? Tomcat has come as a base image. So base image is present in my Docker Hub. So there in the Docker, nowadays like companies also giving their official image. So if you go into your Docker, you can find out the official image. So here I have used the Tomcat Docker image. And so now you can find out, okay, it has been done. So if I go into my hub, I can find out a new image. And number will be 19 because I have given a build number 19. So number will be 19. 19. Yeah, this is the one which has been done now. Okay, fine. And here is the command to pull. So I have done the push. Then here is the command to pull. Docker pull. This Ranjit Roy Docker is my username. And this Ranjit is my repository. And this is my tag. If I'm not giving the tag, then it will pull out everything, which is the latest one. It will pull out the latest one. But if I'm giving the specific one, then it will take out that particular image. Just one more time. This is my Docker hubs, like public repository. This is my username, Ranjit Roy Docker, and this is my repo name, repository. I can have multiple repository based on my project, and this is my tag name. So this is how we are going to create a image. And further, if I go into my image, so here you can see, since I have borrowed, I have implemented a base image of Tomcat. So it has taken the base image of Tomcat here. Everything is done by Tomcat. And after that, we have added our own library and we have written our command catalina.sh run, and it will add, my file will be added into web app, like whatever the like war file is there. Then it will execute bean.sh and catalina. This is the command and it will expose into my 8080 straightforward. So this is the port will be exposed. Fine. So right now, okay, fine. We are done with this one, like how to create the image and all, we are done. Now we will deep dive little more how it is possible. So Docker engine is one of the most important part, and it comprises of 3 layers. One is the server, which is also known as Docker daemon or Docker D. And we have a REST API and we have a Docker CLI. So the best part about this one, like Docker CLI, it manages your like container, image, data volume, or network. So it will take the request through the Docker CLI, and it will pass over to the server to creation of all these components through the REST API. So as a programmer, I don't have to be much more kind of like programmatically I have to create this one. I just need, because the REST API has been exposed, I just need to pass over my request to my REST API. This client will make a request, and it will, based on your request, it will create whatever you need. It will create the component. So this is the Docker engine, how it works. About the Docker architecture, as you can see, like I have three parts, like client, host, like Docker daemon, the same thing. I'm explaining the same architecture I'm explaining in a like a kind of flow. And here we have a registry. Registry is nothing but Docker Hub. So what happens, like whenever as a client, if I'm giving this instruction, Docker build, then it will sense to my server, which is like Docker daemon will be reading this request, and based on my request, it will create either image or it will create my container. So suppose I have a build, so it will create an image, and this image will be saved into my like if it is a like push command, then it will be saved into my Docker Hub. Otherwise, if it is a like a pull, so what will happen, like it will go to the Docker daemon, which is like server, and based on that one, it will pull out the image from my Docker Hub, and it will put into my image. If it is a Docker run, so what will happen in the Docker run? Docker daemon, Docker run is nothing but pull and run. So first it will go, it will pull out from the Docker Hub, and then out of that it will create a container. So this is the kind of high level architecture with three component. It's like a server client approach. Client is just pushing my request in a very sophisticated way. It doesn't require any like hard programming. I just need a command. What is your need? My need is build, pull, or run. So based on that one, it will go to the server, Docker daemon, and based on that one, if it is a build, then it will build. Pull means wherever it has to be pulled from the repository, then it will pull, and based on that, it will create my component. Another thing is like today we have like Docker provide a private and public repository. And like say for example, I'm working for the financial sector, so I need my own private repository. So for that one also we have something called Harbor. So it is also one of the repository. So it can have like Docker Hub can be private or as well as your public. The difference between that, public can be like public image can be downloaded by anyone, but the private is only related to that particular user. So that is the one, but both are paid. License will be paid for that one. So yes, now coming to the Docker components. As we talked about the Docker component, like we have four major component: image, container, networking, and storage. These are the four component. As I told you, like whenever the application is running, they are running in their own isolated way. So first component is image. So image is nothing but it's a read-only binary template, which is used to build the container. So as I told you, like image is having a set of instruction which describe what is your need. Okay, so image part we will go in more details later on. So image is one of them, and this is the one artifacts. This is the artifacts which we are shipping to our customer. So we are building the image, we are storing in a hub, repository hub, and this is the image which is getting pulled out by my like client, and they are running as a container, and that is serving my like my need. Okay, so now coming to the container, like okay, where container is nothing but running instance of my image. So whatever I'm running, it's a set of command I'm running through the image, that will be running as a container. So running instance of my image. Again, like coming from the traditional approach, like I have a Java application, I have a jar. That jar I am running, so that will call a Java process. So here in the same term, I'm running my image. Just compare image with your jar, but image is more than jar. I'm running my jar, I'm running my image, that forms my container. So that is my running instance. Okay, and this image, this container can spin up. So this container I can run as many as I want based on my, if I'm running my images. Now next one is my networking. So networking is very important because I need to communicate between the containers. This container I may have, for my scenario, I have a web application, for example, and this web application is talking to different microservices. Okay, and this microservices is still a like another container. So we have to maintain a communication between these two containers. So to maintain this one, we have like by default, not by default, like we have three types of, mainly three type of networking. One is the bridge, overlay, and Macmillan. So Breeze is nothing but it's given by default networking driver for the container. So here, like what happens, like suppose I have a host machine. So, and in that one, I have running a container, like my container web application and the microservices in the same host machine. So they can communicate through the Breeze, and this is by default given. But if suppose my microservices is running in different host machine, that container is running in different host machine, not in the same host machine. So for that one, I need a overlay. So overlay networking will come into the picture. Third one is Macmillan. Macmillan is like this is the driver which assign a MAC address to my container. So it is some similar to like physical device. If you want to act as a physical device, then use this Macmillan. And there are other two which I have not listed down, which is called like host and none. So host is something like these two are used if you don't want any communication, you want to disconnect. So in that case, you use the host and none. So that is what we are going to use. That is what is going to use if you don't want any communication between the container. Now coming to the storage, why we need the storage? Because storage, since you are running a container and container is not fixed, meaning if I stop my container, everything, whatever the data it produces, it will go off. Similarly, like a small, if you compare to your virtual machine, whatever you write in your virtual machine, it will persist. But in the container, it's like a temporary thing running. Okay, it is running over there. But once it is like it's removed, that has been gone. Whatever the data it has, it will be go off. So to maintain this one, we have like storage, data volume container, dictionary mount, and the storage plugin. So data volume is nothing but it has a mechanism, meaning like whatever you are writing in your container, you can volume to your host machine. It's something like kind of mount. So whatever, wherever you are writing, you will just map one file folder basically to your container, and whatever you are writing in a container or producing a log, the same thing will be reflected in my host machine. So that is called data volume. Another is like data volume container. So it's like dedicated container which is to host your volume. So it's again a container which will host your volume of your another container. So whatever you're writing in your first container, this data volume container will read and store. So that is the another container. Third one is directory mount. Directory mount means you can host any kind of like NFS mount over there, and it will go and pass. So it's rather than writing in a host machine, you're writing in a mounted directory. So it also facilitate that facility. Like mounting one, it has a facility. And last one is storage plugin. Storage plugin means suppose you want to write into a cloud, so it has a plugin over there. So you can make use of whatever you're writing, it will go and write into your cloud. So these are the four Docker components. Okay, now we will go into our Docker file, which I said like one of the most building blocks to create any images. So these are the nothing but it's a set of instruction which will build your image. So every time like okay, and to build any image, I need a base image. As I told you, like in my case, I'm using my Tomcat. Okay, so I will go more into my Docker file. So this is the command I'm using. I'm going to use environment word directory run volume add expose. And since this is the file which developer is writing, so there is a best practice of writing this file, Docker file. So which command need to be used to make it efficient? So there is a best practice written for the Docker file. You can refer that one. Okay, and I will go one by one. So this first one is from and maintainer. So from is the first command. So here you need, as I told you, like every Docker file need to have one base image. So this is the one you can have the first command. All Docker file start with this command. So you have to write from either. If you don't want anything, then there is a base image called scratch. You have to make that use of that one, scratch. Otherwise, if you want some specific, then go for that one. But you need that one. So here in my example, I'm using from Ubuntu and latest. So it will take out the latest. Maintainer, it's a very best practice. You need to write the maintainer, who is the writer of this Docker file. So maintainer is Ranjit, and here is my email ID. Second one is update or upgrade. So this is mainly for doing the update. So if suppose I'm taking the Ubuntu, I will run two command, update and upgrade. Sorry, there is a typo. So there will be upgrade. So I'm just refreshing that images. So there is another one, environment variable. So whatever you declare in your file, that will be referred into your container, because container, it's a new one. It doesn't have any environment variable. So you want to refer any environment variable, then this is the env is the statement through which you can do. Expose. Yeah, expose is to, suppose you want to expose your application, then you can make use of this port, expose port. Suppose I am running any like web application, and I need to expose. So I make use of export keyword, so that it is the port where I'm listening. I can listen to my application. And this is the command. CMD command is the statement which is going to run when my container will start. When my image will spin up, container will be starting, and during that time, this is the first command I'm going to run. So bin bash is the first command I'm going to run. Okay, so before I go into more, I will go into some practical things. I will take, okay, I'll take another 10 minutes maximum. Okay, so first thing is Docker pull, Docker images, just to see, do I have the images? Okay, I have some images over there. So Docker remove images, RMI, and I'm going to remove my images, for example, here. Okay, RMI. Oh, sorry, tag. This is the image ID. So this is my image ID. I'm going to remove. Okay. Okay, so it's having some dependency. So in that case, I will go for -f. Okay, so Docker images. Fine, nothing. So first command I'm going to run, Docker, say like pull. So pull, how I'm going to use. So Docker pull, and what I have to give. Suppose I'm taking from my repository, Docker Hub. So I have to give Ranjit Roy. So this is the syntax. Okay. So Ranjit Roy Docker is my username. Ranjit is my repository, and version 119, which I have created just now. So I'm going to pull. So it's going into my Docker. Okay. Docker. Login. Okay, fine. Okay. So first I did the login. So like login is succeeded. Then I went and I pull my images. So this is my image, version 19, which I have taken. Just now I have created 2 minutes. Okay. So now I can look into my Docker images. So here you can see, like, this is my tag, which I have taken just now. And each one will be having my tag image ID. So this is the image ID, which has been assigned. Now I am going to run Docker run and image ID. Okay. Since I haven't given, this is running, and I went inside my container, because I haven't used one of the tag known as IT. IT means interactive detached mode. So it has gone inside my container. So what I will do, Azure user and okay. So Docker. So here you can see Docker and PS minus A means all the active one, all the active images. Here you can see this. So this is the command Docker PS minus A. So this is the command. Okay, so here you can see like I have this is the image 90 which I have done. So okay, to stop anyone to remove, I'm going to kill this one first. Okay, I have to stop first because it's saying it's running, so you cannot remove like this. So you have to do stop. So I'm doing stop. So it will take some time, and the same ID will be returned to me. So it has been stopped. So here in this the background you can see like okay, I came out. Now I'm going to run the same thing. Okay, I have done this stop first. So now I will do my PS minus A. So here you can see exited means it has been stopped, and it has been stopped because I have done. Okay, fine. So here in this case, the second mode I'm going to use minus IT. IT means interactive terminal mode, and ITDs means interactive terminal detached mode. I'm not going inside my container. Okay, so here what happens like my container has been started, my image with my image, and this is my tag. So I came out. I am not inside my container. How to verify? Docker PS minus A. Docker PS minus A, you can see, and this is up and running. So this is up and running, which I have created just now. One strange thing, here is the name given, some random name. So if you are not giving any name, by default, Docker daemon, which is the heart of your Docker engine, it will give their own name. So how to make sure like you have to give your own name? Simple thing is, okay, what you have to do first is stop. How to stop? Docker stop, and you're doing. So whatever the keyword you're looking like PS, stop, pull, and like run, all these are the life cycle. So by pull, you're taking from the hub. By run, you are running your image. Stop means stopping. Start means starting your container. Stop means stopping your container. RM means removing your container. So these are the life cycle. This is how you are going to run your container. Okay, so now I have stopped and I will be able to remove my container. Okay, perfect. So now I will look into this one. So there is nothing. It has gone. So what I will go, I will do one thing. I will run, and here I will give the name. So name is like something like this one name. And here I'm going to give name as like, okay, my container. Ah, okay, there is. Okay, maybe container ID is Docker run and my name equal to, and here I'm giving the image. So same image if I want to run. Okay. So if I go into my Docker PS minus A, so here I have given my own name. So Docker daemon sees, okay, I have passed my name, so it will assign my name. Otherwise, it will give some random name. So that is one of the way. So my container is running. So that is one of the way. Now, next thing is, okay, what I am going to do from fresh, I'm taking one image from hub. So for example, Ubuntu. Ubuntu is there. Okay, Docker run. Okay, it's already there. Okay. Okay, it's running. Okay, so yeah, here you can see like I run the Ubuntu run, and here in the status you can see exited, because the reason is I have I have run but I haven't done like ITD mode. Since I told you before also ITD mode. So for example, I'm going to remove first and then I will do the Ubuntu. Okay. Ubuntu, and I will remove this container first. Okay. Now I'm going to run Ubuntu and minus ITD. ITD, yes, ITD. So now my container is running, and how to verify? Yes, minus A. So this is my container running, Ubuntu. Now, suppose I want to go inside my container. Now I'm outside my container. I'm in my host machine. I want to go inside my container. So here I can go with this command, docker attach, and I can give my container name. So, okay, sorry, attach. So here you can see my name has been, host name has been changed. So now I am inside my container. So here what I can do, this is inside my container, whatever I have. Okay. This is one of the example. Second thing is, okay, suppose if I'm going to come out of my container, there are two ways. One is exit. When I do exit, then it will stop my container. It will exit my container. Container will no more running. If I want my container to be running and coming out of my container, then there is something called control PQ. So control PQ, I have come out, and once again I'm looking into my PS minus A, still running. I came out of my container, but my container is still running. Once again, I go inside my container, and suppose I'm doing exit PS minus A. So this I have been aborted. This my container has been aborted because I did exit. So exit means coming out of my container and stopping my container. But if I'm doing control P, control Q, then I'm coming out of my container, but container will still keep on running. So that is one of the thing. Okay. Now coming to the volume, it's very small thing, volume part. So volume, as I said, like it's for persistence. So I will check for the volume first, whether we have any volume. Volume ls. Okay, we have one volume. Suppose we want to create a volume, separate volume. Okay, volume has been created, and I want to attach this one. And I will do Ubuntu, and I will give some name. And okay, test volume and minus V for volume. So here I'm giving volume 2, and it will go and it will write into my logs. Okay, so maybe minus name. Okay. Minus fee. Okay, maybe Ubuntu I have to write at the end. Okay, fine. Okay, test volume is already there. Okay, I will do test volume 2. Okay, so now Docker PS minus A. I have created one volume. I just want. Okay, I'm inside my container because I've done minus IT interactive mode. So I'm inside my container. Fine, and I will go into my this ls. So here you can find out my logs. So this is the logs I have created. So what I'm going to do, I'm going into my logs, and ls. There is nothing. So I will create one folder, touch and test.txt. And here I will do, now my file has been created. What I will do, I will come out of my this one. So I came out, and here I will go into my volume ls. Okay, so volume 2 is there. Now I want to inspect where is my volume is there. Docker volume inspect, and my volume name is volume 2. So here is my volume data has been created in this path. So I'm going inside this one, and here you can see text file has been created. What I'm going to do, I'm going to okay, I'm going to create another file, and this file should reflect inside my container. So I'm inside this one. I'm going to do touch and test2.txt ls. So there are two files. Text2 I have just now I've created. Okay. Now I have docker ps minus a. So this is the docker. Okay, this is running. I want to go inside this one. So for running container, if you want to go docker attach and container name. So now I'm inside my container. So this is my container ID IP, container host name. Host name. Okay, so this is my container host name. Suppose I want to see whatever I have created, it should sync automatically. So ls minus lrt. So here you can find it is coming. So this is the way you can create a volume, a simple volume, which you have created from your host machine. It is reflecting in your container, and in your container, it is reflecting in your host machine. So by this way, you're not going to lose your data. Its data is getting persisted. Okay, so these are the life cycle basically, which I have shown you. uh, how to get the image from your, how to, first of all, how to build the image. So I have built the image through this command. So here I have built the image. I have a Docker file. I have created a Docker file. So Docker file you have seen, like I have written the command from Tomcat is my base image, and add sample app. So these are the command I have written. Okay, one more thing I would like to show you. Yeah, I'm in my which Tomcat. Okay, this is my Ubuntu. Sorry. Okay, I will take my image which I have created. So first I will come out, and I will try to run Docker ps minus a. Okay, so here is my, okay, I will try to get my data first. So Docker pull and Docker images, sorry, Docker images. So whether I have, okay, 19 I have just now I have taken. So I'm going to run this one first. So Docker and run, and I'm going to give my image ID, which I have created. Okay, image ID, this one. And after that, I will do one thing, minus IT, interactive terminal mode, so that it will keep on running after the run. And I'm going to do minus P. P is nothing but port forwarding, means I'm exposing. So let me run this one first. Okay, so this is running interactive terminal. So I'm inside my container. So in this one, suppose I want to see Docker ps minus a. So, okay, so just now it has run. And here you can see I have done the port forwarding. So whatever I am running in 8080, it is forwarding to my port, my host machine port. It is 327776. Okay, first of all, I will go and see whether my application is running or not. So 32776 HTTP 32776. Okay, and here I will do sample app. Okay, so my application is running fine. So what happened? And just to verify, if suppose I'm doing Docker stop and container, just to verify that is the only application. So it will stop, it will take some time. Okay, so now I have stopped. And here we can verify as well. This one has been stopped. This name, Filani, and it has been stopped. So this is the way you can do the port forwarding your web application, and here you can do. And other thing is, okay, another. Okay, and Docker run. This is the one, and suppose I want to run. For example, if I go into my image, okay, /bin. Okay, mm, okay, suppose I want to run this one, and here I am giving my port forwarding and /user and /bash. Okay, maybe this one I can do. Okay, bash, yes. Oh, what happened? Okay, this is not my image, sorry. -IP, and suppose I want to take this image. Uh, Images. I'll look into my images first, run, and I will run these images. -P, I will try to run the same images. Here I want to show you like my Tomcat. So since in my host machine there is no Tomcat, I will go inside my container. So I have done, okay, -ITD, detest, -IT. So now I have run this container and I'm inside my container. So here you can see my container is having the Tomcat. So here, if I do which Tomcat, I will be able to see. I will be able to see because this is a path of my Tomcat. And suppose I am doing LART and web app. So you can see my application has been copied over here. So this is one of the way you can go inside, and whatever, if you want to do any changes in your container, if you want to install anything, you can do your changes. You can upgrade that one and you can start, stop, whatever you want, you can do over there. But make sure if that container is gone, then everything will be gone. Like if it is removed, means everything will be removed. So if you want to persist that one, there is a way, like out of the container, you can create another image and you can persist. There is a way. Okay, now coming back to my this one further. So how this is useful in my DevOps. So this is the last another 2 minutes I'm going to go. So here I have a developer machine, and here is the ops guys, dev and ops. So here today what we are doing, we are giving the Java jar application, and we are giving the instruction, a kind of roadmap. You follow this one, like you stop, start, copy this one, whatever you have to do. So this is the roadmap. But using this one, uh, like Docker in DevOps, out of jar file, I'm having my Docker file, and this will create my image. Now I don't have to give anything else, no instruction, nothing. I just need to give my image, and out of that one, they can automate. They can just write like Docker run or whatever they want to write to run my application as a container. They can write, but the artifacts, the delivery part will be only the image. That's all. So that is how we are going to deliver this one. Now, as I said, like Docker, it's a good way. Like you are taking the Docker, you are running, you are creating the container. That is a good way using the like command, run command, pull command. That is okay. But the smart way, like how to maintain a Docker, there is a tool called Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is nothing but it's for the deployment. Docker is for creating your artifacts. And remember one thing, for this Docker, you're not going to change anything in your code. Your code is as it is. As I have written my application, there's no changes related to my Docker. I haven't given any reference. I have created for the development point of view, there is nothing going to be changed. So that is the beauty. But the packaging part will going to change how I'm going to package. Now I'm using my Docker. I'm using my image, creating my image. Now, out of this image, I am deploying through using my command line, like run command. But to make it more functional way into my cluster, there is another tool called Kubernetes, which we will discuss in our next session. That is on next week. So I think that's all I have today. Sorry. Yeah, I'm done actually. Sorry for the late actually. Yeah, I targeted for 1 hour, but it go beyond that. So that's all I have. This is the QR code if you want to give any feedback. So now you have any question to ask?
I think got people who ask questions in the chat.
Okay. Okay, I will stop sharing then. Okay, the question is like, where do the cloud system like AWS, GCP stand in the term of VM and container infrastructure? Okay, these are the cloud. Like whatever you're talking about AWS, the question is, okay. Yeah, these are the cloud, like AWS, GCP or Azure, these are the cloud. So this facilitates us to create a VM. Okay, my container can be run in my, as I told you, it can run in my VM or a standalone machine. So in my host machine, it can be VM, and out of that VM, I'm creating a container. It doesn't require like these are the infrastructure, like you're talking about the AWS or Azure. These are the infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. But my base can be either it can be VM or a standalone machine throughout which I am creating my container. So container perspective, there is nothing going to change. It can be my in-house or it can be in my cloud also. And next question, I think there is only one question I got. Okay. Okay, I wanted to ask if it is possible to make container communicate to each other within the Docker. If so, how you call within each other, and how does? Okay, okay. As I told you, like for communication, there is a different driver. In my, if you go into my PPT, okay, I can share once more. No problem. So if I go into my PPT, there is something called communication. So these are the driver, the Breeze overlay, Macmillan. So these are driver. So as I told you, like Breeze, if you want to make a communication between, because you're exposing, you're doing a port forwarding. So -p I have given. You have seen in my demo, I've given the -p. So -p is like port forwarding. So that port, it is listening in my host machine. And if I want to do the communication to another one, so this port will be listening and that will be forwarded. Because I cannot access my container IP. Each container is having one IP, but I cannot access. That is the major advantage is like container is never a permanent. Because container, if I'm spinning a new container, the IP will getting changed. So that's the reason, always access your application using your host machine and by doing the port forwarding. So port forwarding is a facility. Now you have done the port forwarding. How you are going to communicate with another container. So that is called like bridge. Bridge is one of the way you can go into more details of the networking. So there is a bridge which in which like your container is hosted in the same machine, but if it is a different machine, that is called overlay. And if you want to give a like MAC address, then it's a MAC VLAN. So this is a like advanced technology. But again, if you want to go, if you want to simplify this one, there is a way like in the Kubernetes that is handled in a better much way. That is in terms of pod, that we will look into the next week. So that will be interesting actually, because here whatever I am doing with the help of my CLI command, but in the Kubernetes it's a very sophisticated way. Here there we need to just pass one command, it will be doing on behalf of me, and there will be we will be passing one like a kind of a specification. There we mention what kind of networking we want, so that we will look into that part. Okay. Okay, how does the concept of distributed computing apply with Docker? Distributed, yeah, like your application is running in a different container, so it will be distributed kind of thing. Yes, it's possible. I think that's all I have. Yeah. Anything more?
Sorry, Ranjit.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I was more asking in terms of distributed computing in terms of parallelism, where
Mhm.
you are using the GPU in the cloud to do many computing.
Okay. Okay.
So does that mean that when you need that volume of computing power, you cannot use Dockers? I am trying to understand because I come from a finance
Mhm.
background
Yeah.
where I have a huge volume of data, so I need many CPUs to compute the answer.
Okay.
So how does that affect the design of Dockers?
Okay, in that case, since like we are also doing the like huge file computing, so for that one we are using a Spark technology where it is loaded and doing the computation on the memory. So that is another thing. But in terms of Docker, as per my knowledge, if you want to host a similar instance of your application, then you go for the Docker. Meaning like I have a web application, for example, I have a web application like Facebook. If I want to run a multiple instance, then in that case, my Docker will be useful. But in terms of your like computing, like distributed computing, in that case, if I'm not wrong, no, it won't be helpful. You will be running a multiple instance of your batch, like your program, your batch program, but how the data will be passed to each and everyone, I'm not sure. It's not possible in this case. No, for that one, like you have to go for the computing tool like a Spark kind of thing.
Yeah, so I was trying to clarify. So the Dockers are more for small volume where there's huge variety in the programming. Is that how I
Yes.
should think of it?
Yes, so Docker is mainly for the uh, stateless application. First of all, like web application is stateless, so that it doesn't have their own data. It produce some data, so that will be taken care by my volume. That is okay. And second one is it should be very light. It should not be too much of heavy kind of system. So for example, if you have a larger system, don't go for the Docker. First you split up. You don't go for the monolithic system and host in a Docker. First split up into microservices kind of architecture. Then host each microservices into your Docker, in your container.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to think, how do you make the
Mhm.
the answers coherent? Like they all need to look at the same copy of the numbers, like updating.
Yes. So okay. Okay, so you mean to say like I have a multiple instance of application running, and how you make sure like each one is running their own? like own request. That's what your question is?
My question is in terms of timing, like say I'm generating trading signals of some risk position, and after the trading signal is generated, my risk position will have changed to incorporate the trading signal, something like that.
Okay.
Then if I have many Dockers, multiple copy, how do they make sure that they are referencing to the correct copy to compute the next trading signal?
Okay, you mean like there should not be something like race condition kind of thing?
Yes. Race condition. Yeah.
Race condition. So for the Docker, okay, especially in the Kubernetes, in the next part. So Kubernetes has one facility called a load balancer. So in the load balancer, what it does, like suppose I have a multiple pod. Pod means like container running. So what will happen? I'm talking about one particular data. So I have a like multiple container running. So we have one service component which will make sure like one pod is serving my request. So if any data, any request is coming, it will go to one container only. It will not go to multiple container. First thing. So that will be taken care by my service object in Kubernetes. But if you are maintaining like this one, like a Docker, if you are running like a command line, then you have to make a load balancer kind of thing like F5 technology. It will take one request and it will go to one particular container. It will not go to the like multiple container. F5 technology. It's like a load balancer. You have to maintain a load balancer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, we have another question. How does Jenkins play a part in Rogue? Okay, Jenkins here I have used for the CI/CD. So as I told you, like I'm creating my artifacts, I'm creating my jar file. Now after my jar file, I want to create my image. So I just want to do the CI/CD. So with CI/CD, I will make use of my Jenkins. So in the Jenkins itself, I will create another pipeline, which will create my Docker image and it will push. So here in my example, as I have shown you, like I have used some command. It will take the artifact, the build artifact. It will create the image and it will push into my repository, Docker Hub. So am I clear with that one, Jenkins part? So Jenkins is just for CI/CD. That's it. It doesn't has to link with Docker. No. Any other question? Yeah. Okay. All right then. If you don't have any other things, then we can stop it here and we can meet in the other session of Kubernetes. But it will be helpful if you can give your survey, your feedback on this QR code. Okay, all right then. We can stop the sharing my screen. Is it okay?